Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this special edition where we're continuing our coverage of the second phase of Egypt's parliamentary elections, which started on Sunday, November the 22nd and continues through Monday, November the 23rd until 9 p.m. Cairo local time. Voting for the expats or Egyptians abroad took place on Saturday and Sunday, Saturday, November the 21st and Sunday, November the 22nd. And to shed more light on this, we are glad to be joined here at the studio by Mr. Amgad Gamal, political analyst. Thank you, sir, for joining us today.
Thank you very much.
Sir, and before we go into the details of the elections and, of course, the voting turnout, we're just going to take this report. The second phase of parliamentary elections is continuing on Monday. Voters in 13 governorates are invited to participate in the polls, which will be followed by voting in the runoff round on 1st and 2nd of December. More details in the following report.
Egypt's second phase of parliamentary elections is continuing for the second day, and voters in 14 out of Egypt's 27 governorates went to the polls in October. The remaining 13 governorates will see elections on the 22nd and 23rd of November, followed by voting in the runoff round on the 1st and 2nd of December. According to the committee's spokesperson Omar Marwan, the vote for the Egyptians overseas on 21st and 22nd of November and for residents on the 22nd and 23rd of November, adding that in case of a runoff, voting abroad will take place on the 30th of November and the 1st of December. As many as 222 independent parliamentary seats will be available in this vote, with 2,847 candidates competing in 102 constituencies. In addition, there are 60 seats which will be filled by whichever party list secures a majority in two constituencies, Cairo and the Middle and South Delta, and East Delta with 15 seats. All in all, there will be 282 seats up for the competition in the second and final stage of the polls. The committee's statistics show that 4 electoral coalitions will compete for the 45-seat Cairo and Delta constituency, with 180 candidates for 45 each for the Love of Egypt, An-Noor Party, the Egyptian Front and the Independents' Current Alliance, and the Republican Alliance of Social Forces. The For the Love of Egypt coalition is the only force contesting the polls in East Delta and will therefore secure all the seats if it secures 5% of the vote. The first stage drew to a close on 30th of October with 3 secular political forces, the Free Egyptians Party, the Future of Homeland Party, and the Al-Wafd Party emerging as the main victors. The committee said that as many as 273 seats were filled in the first stage. Most observers agree that the second stage of the polls will be much more competitive than the first, as it will include Cairo and another densely populated governorate, the Nile Delta. All in all, the polls will be held in 13 governorates, which are Cairo, Al-Yubiya, Daqqahliya, Menoufiya, Gharbiya, Kafr al-Sheikh, Al-Sharqiyya, Dumyat, Port Said, Ismailiyya, Suez, North Sinai, and South Sinai.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and we're glad to be joined over the phone with our correspondent, Nermeen Abderrahman from Daqqahliya. Hello, Nermeen. Good afternoon, Nermeen. Can you hear me? Nermeen, can you hear me?
Yes, Naveen.
Hi, how are you?
Good afternoon to you.
How are you? Nermeen, would you please update us on the situation at the polling station you're standing at in Daqqahliya, and how do you see the voting turnout so far?
Okay, let's talk in statistics with the data which was released by the main operation room in the headquarters of the Daqqahliya Governorate. According to the statements released by the governor, by Mr. Hussein Eddin Alam, he said that 20.23% was the percentage of the voting process yesterday. And if we are going to list some details, the least in the percentage of voting was the city of Sherbin, only 10%. And Sembilawin was the best with 30%. Tamail Amdid 25%, Minyat al-Nasr 27%, Meet Ghamr 17%, Talkha 14%, Bani Abaid 25%, Dekernes 19%, and East Mansoura 12.26%.
Right.
To the stories which took place today, there was a bomb which was defused in a village near Mansoura. This village is Meet al-Korama, and bomb experts rushed to the scene as quickly as possible when they were informed with the bomb, and thank God no casualties reported, no damages reported. And I'll tell you something, this is the village of one of the main contenders, the main candidates of this race. He's a media figure whom they were rumors about him today in the morning, as rumors said that there was a trial to kill him, but the security sources from the Ministry of the Interior denied all these reports as rumors, completely rumors, because on the internet there were many reports saying that. Also, there was only one sad event. Hisham al-Adgham. Hisham al-Adgham was a voter in a school in Qom al-Noor. This is another village affiliated to Meet Ghamr. Meet Ghamr also is a city affiliated to Al-Dakhaliya Governorate. Hisham al-Adgham died about 2 hours ago. Even voters around him were trying to rescue him, thinking that he was only in a coma or fainted or something, but unfortunately he died.
And how do you see the security, Nermeen, how do you see the security situation after the bomb and the incidences that took place in the morning?
Security situation?
Right, after the bomb and the incidences that took place in the morning.
The incidents which took place, tell you something, security procedures are very tight, and we had interviews off camera with the head of the Civil Protection Forces, General Osama Sha'ban, yesterday, in addition to another interview on camera with the governor of the province, with Mr. Hussam al-Din Imam. They said how much of the security procedures are taking place heavily since early in the morning, a day before the voting process itself. I mean, the security forces received and secured the places and the headquarters of the polling stations 1 day before the voting process. So the incidents which took place, the security forces intervened immediately without any delay, and there were no major irregularities or violations of law. If you mention that, or if you want to know about that, that can affect the voting process in Dakhaliya in general.
Right, Nermeen, did you get the chance to meet with any of the representatives of the organizations monitoring the elections?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you. Would you please repeat your question again, Naveen?
Right. Did you get the chance to meet with any of the representatives of the organizations monitoring the elections or human rights organizations? Did you hear that?
If I heard you well, you were speaking about the monitoring. The monitors, or those who came from civil societies to monitor the or to have a share here in monitoring the voting process in Dakhaliya. They were just trying to move from here to there in many schools of Dakhaliya, but here in the school I'm in, I've not met any of them.
Right, Nermeen Abdurrahman, Nile TV correspondent from Dakhaliya, thank you very much for your update. We'll be back to you for more updates. And sir, back to our discussion and regarding the voting turnout so far and the electoral process. How do you evaluate the electoral process so far?
Well, first of all, I would like to reiterate my highest appreciation to the armed forces and to the police department in securing and making a safe environment for the whole voting process so far. And this is worth to be mentioned. As for the turnout so far, as we usually are more concerned about it than should be. But anyway, the turnout in the second phase is much more than the first phase, it's obvious. But of course, there's reasons for that. And if we try to analyze...
What are the reasons? Is it related to the candidates trying to expose themselves more through television, or trying to let the people learn more about their programs?
Well, as for the first phase candidates I'm afraid to say that they were not highly qualified enough to present themselves well, to sell themselves well, and that was part of the reason.
Right.
And as for the second phase, the second phase, the nature and the quality of candidates are different, completely
Right.
different from the first one. And on the other hand, the methods of using the silver screen to promote the candidates, it was quite obvious in the second phase.
Right. You were given much more TV time than before the first phase.
That's quite obvious, actually. And if we notice that there are parties which are shared by tycoon businessmen, and at the same time, these businessmen, they owned TV channels, and they used them very well, extensively, in the second phase, promoting their candidates. And they couldn't use the same way or the same means in promoting their candidates in the first phase, because, as I said, the quality and the nature of the candidates doesn't help. Because if they use it in the first phase, it could have backfired, and that's why we don't see the effect, we don't see the same method of promoting the candidates in the first phase as it is in the second phase.
Analysts usually say that it's usually the second phase people are more competitive than the first phase in any elections. Is this true?
It's relatively true. It depends. In each case, it's identical. In our case here, the nature of the people which are supposed to go for voting, it's different parts of Egypt, and the awareness of the people of this part maybe is a little bit higher than the awareness of our people in another part. Maybe it's part of the reason.
How would you see the participation of the different categories of the society, and especially women and youth? I think the participation of women was very obvious, and even we've seen women winners in the first phase of the elections.
As usual, women are always surprising us. Egyptian women always surprising us, and they always come at the dire need. And as for the youth, it's a different story, and I think we have touched this subject before. And I can say that the Egyptian youth, they are suffering from disappointment. There's a mixture of disappointment, frustration, and soaring anger, because they were ruled out from the whole process since the very beginning of the democratic process started, ever since the January 25th revolution, up till now.
Right.
And they were unfortunate, actually. In the first revolution, on January 25th, their own revolution was stolen by Muslim Brotherhood.
Right.
And in the second revolution, on the 30th of June, they were ruled out completely from the scene. And
Right.
that's why the reaction was obvious in not an abstention of going to the electric poll.
After the results of the first phase of the elections, do you think that we will be seeing a certain political party garnering outright majority in the new parliament?
To speak about outright majority for any of the participant party, this is, I don't think it's beyond the reach of any parties. The political parties in Egypt divided into two parts. There are old parties and newly born parties. As for the old parties, the old parties are known to, they manage a way to coexist with a corrupt regime.
Right.
And the Egyptians were very aware of this fact. And that's why the old parties, the old hand parties, lost their glamour with the people. As for the newly born parties, political parties, and some of them alleged that they are the product of the revolution of 25th of January. Unfortunately, these parties, they take advantage of the naivety of the youth and the sincerity of the youth to build up their fame, and then they get rid of the youth. And once it comes to the elections, they go on hunting the ex-ND parties members for on the grounds that they are more affluent and they enjoy popularity.
Talking about political parties, of course, we have a large number of political parties, as you've just mentioned, but we've seen a weak performance by the political parties before and during the elections. What are your expectations for the role of political parties after the new parliament?
After the new parliament, I think they will take a stand and look around each party and to see where are the minuses and the pluses. And they have to reconstruct themselves one more time. Once again, they have to find different means of reaching the people in the street. They have to change their strategy to build up a real calibers belonging to the parties. I think it's a time to each party to reassess its weight in the street.
Right. One of the coalitions announced its withdrawal from the elections, mentioning that they citing biased media coverage. How would you comment on this? Without mentioning, of course, the name of the coalition, as we are in the electoral silence.
Such complaint is quite expected. As I've just said, there are some political parties chaired by business tycoons, and they are at the same time they own TV channels. And of course, they are going to use their TV channels to promote their candidates. Not the same, the other parties, other political parties, they don't have the same privilege. And that's why they feel that the silver screen is biased. But it's not the official silver screen.
Right. In your evaluation, what are the main aspects of the contending, I think we have, we're going to a live transmission and we'll be back. Right, we have some time. What are the main aspects of the contending parties' electoral programs, in your opinion?
I think they all share certain aspects, such as eradicating poverty in Egypt, trying to developing improving the daily life of the Egyptians, improving the health care, developing the educational process. They are all having the same, more or less, the same principles.
Sir, just allow me, we're going to a live transmission press conference of the High Elections Commission, and we'll be right back.